Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending the 7 Deadly Sins of Sales Professionals webinar. We're really super excited to have you guys on the call today. I was just talking with coworker Todd, and he told me to get my game voice on. And sorry, I don't have a game voice, so hopefully this will be good. We are going to dive in today and look at how to overcome some of these deadly sins that we all encounter in our everyday sales life. If I could take a show of hands on this call today, I would ask each of you, how many of you have been to a top-notch high-end restaurant? I know you know this restaurant. Almost every community has one. It gets written up in every magazine. It probably takes 4 to 6 weeks to get a table. It's the kind that serves you that $50 steak, and they charge you the extra $25 to put like crab meat on top of it. It's a great dining experience. But when I think of a great customer experience, I never think of that $50 a steak restaurant. I think of Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, to me, is the gold standard in customer service. So check this out. Last Sunday, my husband and I were on our way to lunch, and we passed a Chick-fil-A. Now, they're closed, for some of you who know that, and some of you who don't. They don't open on Sundays. But that doesn't stop them from continuing to amaze their people, their guests. Because as we passed by the restaurant, I witnessed them shampooing their parking lot. I'm not joking. I can't make it up. Like literally shampooing their parking lot. And the interesting thing is they had this huge, and my husband calls it the industrial orbital cleaner. You know, the one where the guy gets on it and it's going in circles. And I know that thousands of people probably drove by that restaurant that morning, and they were witnessing their parking lot being shampooed. And I just got to thinking, and my husband and I are big raving fans of Chick-fil-A, and I just got to thinking, gosh, if they care that much about the concrete outside of the restaurant, can you imagine what they do and care about preparing the meal that you have? It's sort of crazy to think about it. What we refer as going the extra mile, like I'm showing you in the example, Chick-fil-A calls second mile service. Quote from Dan Cathy, the CEO of Chick-fil-A. First mile service is defined as those things we should all do because it's quote unquote just right. It's the ante, it's expected. It's obligatory, and most times a compulsion that takes very little effort. It's the first mile. The second mile, he says, ups the ante. It's the ground above and beyond that. It's helping mothers with children to their tables. It's refilling drinks. It's engaging in conversation. It's an authentic smile. It's a my pleasure at the end of a thank you. And that's exactly why I'm hosting this webinar today. You can't provide your own second mile service if you're living in these 7 sins. And these are the things that stop us. So we're really going to explore this today. Before I get into it, you all who don't know me may be wondering, who is this chick talking about sin on a conference call? So I'm Kristen Gilo. I've been an executive coach with Building Champions since 2005. And before that, I was either a salesperson or managing salespeople. And I really, really have a passion for helping people overcome what trips us up in our professional lives. So let's talk a little bit about Building Champions. For those of you, who are not familiar with us, Building Champions is a coaching company that was started in 1996 when Daniel Harkavy, my boss, took his passion for helping people and coaching people and decided to create a company based around this. So we really believe in the core 4. We start with that foundational first piece, which is the life plan. We believe it sets the stage for all of the work we do with our clients. When our life is in order, our relationships and our businesses can thrive. So as soon as we get our lives in order, we can really start providing that second mile service more effectively. After that, we're going to walk you through creating a vision. We want to know what that 37,000-foot view is of what you want to belong to, what you want to become, and what you want to build. It's through having that clear vision then we can then operationalize a plan for you, a plan either on a 60 or 90-day or a 12-month cycle. We try to help you figure out what you need to do in order to be the Chick-fil-A in your industry. We wrap all this up with our priority management concepts. I believe that in the absence of true priority, everything seems like a priority. That's just not the case. So it's our job to help you see clearly what's important for you. And I'm hoping that by identifying the sins in your life around the sales piece, that you can best really get in and win your days, win your career, and really accomplish what you want to do. So let's talk about what the sins are. So sin number one, apathy. It's that lack of feeling, that indifference piece. I was just talking with a client a moment ago who's got things just really dialed in, but feeling a little apathetic based on some disappointments he's had recently. So I'll dive into that in just a moment. The second sin is fear, right? Everyone knows what fear is, but just a perceived threat just coming in and taking over. The third sin is desperation, feeling hopeless, feeling like you're out of options. The fourth sin is arrogance. That's that belief that you're better than others. It's a pretty nasty one. We'll dig into that a little bit. The fifth sin is greed, really just that desire to possess more and more and more. The sixth fear is ignorance, having a lack of knowledge. And the seventh fear is complacency, being satisfied, not being satisfied really in a way that makes you feel like you don't really need to improve. All right, so let's jump in to the first sin, excuse me. Now what I want to talk about here is I'm going to give you some ideas, so feel free to take notes. I will talk a little slower if I need to maybe drive a point home, but understand too that we are taping this or recording this. And so you can always go back and listen into maybe some things that you're not capturing. We've just got 30 minutes and I want to make sure that we have enough time to go through everything. All right, so let's hit apathy, right? Mostly I find apathy hits when we're either over-challenged, which we call as burnout, or under-challenged when we're born. And I find that it really happens the most when really disappointment hits. I have a client right now who is really trying to get in to a specific prospect, a referral prospect. And he's got something to offer. He's got a perfect plan. There is value in what he can offer this prospect, but he can't get that return call. And I don't know if that resonates with anybody here on the call, but I've had it too, where I've got someone that I know could use some coaching. I just can't get the opportunity to share it with them. What happens though is we get this disappointment and it starts snowballing a little bit. Because we're not getting that return call, we stop trying over in other areas because we just don't want to deal with the rejection. So apathy comes in and we don't want it to take over. So I want to suggest a few things. If you're feeling like apathy is hitting you, first, and I'm going to say this about every one of the sins, recognize you have it. There's always that preconceived notion that things are going to fly right over our head and we're not going to be cognizant of what's going on. That's not the case. We've got to recognize when these things are happening. We need to be very diligent about what's going on consciously and subconsciously in our careers. If you don't feel that you are great at recognizing if apathy is setting in or any of the sins are setting in, then ask family or close friends to stay on the lookout for it when it happens and you're not recognizing it, and allow them to speak truth into it. Once you've identified it, then I want you to do this exercise. I want you to write down the last 3 disappointments that you can remember. How'd you feel about them? Maybe you lost $1 million deal and you really thought you were going to get that deal closed. How'd that make you feel? Then look back at those disappointments and look at it with a new set of lenses. Now that you've got a new perspective, how could it have been prevented? Maybe overcoming apathy comes out of you creating better sales skills and practices. After you've done that, I want you to take the flip side. I want you to look and say, gosh, when is the last time I did something spectacular? When is the last time that I had a win? I think when you remind yourself of the victories, even though they can be fewer than the disappointments, we can stop apathy right in its tracks. And a fourth, and I've already touched on this a little bit, but put it into perspective. Sometimes the things that disappoint us at the time that they did are small now. And I think we give disappointment such power because we only remember it when we were in it. You could go back and realize maybe it wasn't that big of a disappointment after all. Usually it's going to help you get back on track as well. Okay, let's go to the next sin, and I'm just going to be honest with you, this screen freaks me out. Fear. According to the responses that you guys put together before you got on this call, this was our #1 sin that everybody on this call struggled with, or most of us, the majority. And if you know anything about me, if you read my blog posts, if you coach with me, if you're a friend of mine, you know that I'm deathly afraid of snakes. Like, I'm just not kidding when I say I can't look at the screen right now. It's crazy. It's ridiculous because looking at that snake on screen right now makes me think that there's snakes like all around me. And that's nuts because there are not snakes around me. I don't live in a house with snakes. But I'm going to tell you it feels really real. It feels really real. And I know that the fear that we feel, say that 5 times, at work feels real, even when it's not. So you could be afraid of selling to high-worth people. You could be afraid to sell to your network of family and friends, or just even approaching a stranger may scare you. Understand that me telling you to get over it, or a coach or a friend saying just do it, that's not going to solve anything. It doesn't solve anything because you can't work through, you don't work around your fear. You need to work through your fear. So let me share a few tips on how to fight fear. And graciously, we don't have to look at that snake anymore. The first one is call out the fear. We need to figure out what the actual fear is. In my case, it's being afraid of snakes, which doesn't have anything to do with sales call reluctance, but it does mean a real fear. You need to make light of it because a lot of times when you shed light onto that fear, it seems less scary. My family and I used to go to Cancun every year, and the Kukulkan Plaza, if you've ever been down to Cancun, has this center in the middle of the mall where a guy with this huge yellow boa constrictor sits out there and you pay to get your pictures taken with him, to hold him. And every year for about 14 years that I was going down there, I would literally avoid that section of the mall. Always went to the mall, it's part of our trip, but always avoid that section of the mall. And one day I just said, gosh, I'm just sick of being afraid of snakes. And I went over and I touched the snake. And then I kind of got sweaty hands and I wasn't feeling good about it. But I said, you know what, maybe I can put that snake on my shoulders. And I sat with a snake on my shoulders for about 20 minutes. And the snake wasn't so bad. And that, again, I still have a fear of them, but I brought light to it. And it's not as scary as it once used to be. So I want you to call out the fear that you have. And then I want you to create ways to overcome it. Listen, get your fingers working for you. There are 1,000 books, 100 webinars, 10,000 blog posts, everything to help you figure out how to overcome your fear. Get online, let your fingers do the walking for you. Go to Barnes & Noble, find out solutions. And if you really, really need a great, solid solution, take the sales call reluctance test that we have at Building Champions. You're going to answer specific questions, and the report's going to spit back specific sales call reluctance fears that are stopping you. And I love it because it literally not only will identify, hey, this person's afraid to deal with high net individuals, or hey, this person feels that a salesperson title is negative, or there's going to be a lot more than they'll recall on that. It literally will give you a prescription for how to overcome it. We've got a great sales team at Building Champions that can help you walk through that as well. All right, let's move on from the fear. Let's look at desperation. Okay, quick side note. The reason why that there is a groundhog on this picture is because I wrote this on Groundhog Day for a blog post, and there was more winter. And I don't know where y'all are in the country, but we have had a big winter here. And it was starting to get a little desperate over at the Giedel house. So the groundhog was a picture of desperation for me at the time. And I'll tell you, it's an emotional state in which you really do feel like you don't have a lot of options. And we can really feel hopeless, like after a long winter, or after 2 months of slow sales, or after 6 months of not hitting your goals. think the problem with desperation isn't that we feel desperate sometimes. I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling a little bit desperate. I think the problem is when we let desperation rule and then ruin us. Got to be aware of that. Feeling a little desperate is not the end of the game. Living in desperation is. So how do we do this, right? And I'm going to say this. It's March 13th right now. You all have had 2.5 months in your year. First thing, pull out your 2014 sales goals. Where are you? Are you reaching them? If you aren't, don't freak out. Go back and put in what you did in January and February. Project what March is going to look like and readjust the goals. I'm not trying to give you permission to make less this year or to sell less. All I'm saying is maybe you readjust and up the ante for other months coming on. I think knowing your numbers is hugely important. My clients know you got to know where your numbers are at all times. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to go in and review where the business has come from so far. Thank those people. You've got business. Who's given it to you? How can you add value back to them? They've partnered with you so far. How are you going to have them continue to partner with you? Third, reach out to the partners you haven't worked with yet. Who were you counting on that just hasn't shown up to the table? Find out what's going on. Is it you or is it they have no business? If it's you, you can improve. If it's they have no business, how do the 2 of you or 3 of you collaborate to help each other get more? And the fourth thing, and this is like a broken record in my world, ask your past clients to refer you. Comes up in almost every coaching session. What are you doing to get your past clients to become your raving fans? If you're providing second mile service to your clients, they're going to want to refer to you. The thing is they're not waking up each day wondering how to provide you with referrals. They need to be reminded. When you ask your past clients to give you referrals, you're giving them permission to help you, and they want to help you. Okay, sin number 4, arrogance. Funniest story, I don't know why I'm full of them today. I take my stepdaughter, who's 4 years old, her name is Delaney, cutest little blonde thing you'll ever see, to the Cinderella tea at the Magic House in St. Louis. So picture this, 50 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds in a room with their moms, getting ready to watch a live performance of the Cinderella, Prince Charming, fairy godmother, sort of a story, right? At each table, you got about 10 of us, 5 kids, 5 adults. We're making crowns. Like people are getting ready to, girls are getting ready to have crowns so that we can then go up and have our picture taken with Cinderella and get autographs. All the little kids can't wait to go meet Cinderella. It got quiet for a moment, and this is sort of the way that this sort of things happen. And my stepdaughter looks out at the table and she goes, Cinderella is going to be so excited to see me. She just can't wait to meet me. And I stopped for just a moment, and the mothers looked at me and the kids looked at me, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I raising? And then I realized she's got a childlike confidence about her. And I love that. We can't lose the confidence that we have as salespeople. We can be arrogant, though. And I think we need to really be careful of this, because if we elevate ourselves above others, arrogance, it's a deal breaker for most people. So ways to prevent being arrogant. Look at who you measure yourself up against. If you're not shining unless somebody else has to be put down, you're probably arrogant. Think about who you share your success with. When you're reaching those goals, are you too busy patting yourself on the back that you're not having people be recognized as partners with you? And then think about who your board of directors are. Listen, you don't have to be the CEO of a large corporation to have a board of directors. I sit on the board of directors of 53 people right now, my clients. I'm only one of a few of the people that they consult with. But have people that you care about their opinions and their values. And they're not afraid to go, yo, what's going on with you? Take it down a notch. You're awesome. It's great to be confident, but you've molded into this arrogant person. People don't want to work with arrogant people. All right, I don't know how many of you, I don't know how old everybody is. I'm 43, so I grew up with this movie, right? Greed, Gordon Gekko. Greed is good, greed is right, greed works. No, it doesn't. It wasn't right when Michael Douglas was that young in that picture, and it's not right now. What I did before this call is I had each one of you write down what you all give thanks for on a daily basis. I love the Building Champions cry out there. That's pretty awesome. Thanks, guys. But think about it. Look at this list. I mean, other than shoes, which as a woman I have to appreciate too, there's nothing of material value here. I mean, you're talking about health. You're talking about music. You're talking about energy and your family. Greed doesn't hit this. I tell you, when it gets to a place where you're fighting for your life, my 26-year-old stepson is fighting for his life. He's got stage 3 cancer right now, and he's a realtor. And I went back to Denver and spent 4 or 5 days with him a couple weeks ago. And he's like, he wasn't like, man, I sure do miss making money because I really want to go buy a new car. Or I really miss making money and I need a new sofa. Like, none of that stuff came up. He's like, man, I just miss going out to lunch with my friends. I miss feeling normal. I miss having the opportunity to, be with my family and not feel this bad. I just think about this greed thing, and I think about what we're told in every commercial you'll ever see about how more is more, and I just don't think it is. Be careful. Careful not to be greedy. I think prospects can smell it a mile away, and eventually no one will want to work with you. Okay, deadly sin number 6, ignorance. I'm not even sure why I should even talk about this, because in today's world of the internet and information at our fingertips every moment of every day, none of us should be ignorant in the knowledge of our sales. But sometimes people just don't know what to do. Ignorance, the only way you can overcome ignorance as a sales professional is to get time in your time blocked out to educate yourself. In the words of Daniel Harkavy, 30 minutes a day, reading, listening to webinars like this, attending seminars, do a quarterly professional development plan. What sales skills or competencies do you want to develop in yourself over the next 90 days? Write a plan. Take a DISC assessment. Building Champions does these too. It'll show you what your behavioral style is. It teaches you what motivates you. It shows you how to communicate with other people. Great assessment to take. Don't let ignorance, which I think is one of the quickest sins to get out of, bog you down. I want you to be very cautious though. Knowledge can impress people, but it can also bore them. So make sure to focus on your education and learning those things that are going to add value to your customers, your guests, your prospects, because simply knowing stuff's not going to help you appear less ignorant. The last sin is complacency. Coincidentally, it is the second largest sin that you all said you struggled with. And really the only thing I look at for you all overcoming this sin is asking yourself this question, and I'm going to repeat it twice. First, just one question, excuse me. What do I need to do today so that in 3 years I can look back and say, I didn't let complacency rule my life? What do you need to do today so that in 3 years you can look back and say, I didn't let complacency rule my life? It's not a quick fix answer. You're not going to have like this aha moment in 1 minute. You need to take some time. You need to take some time to reflect on the question and then create the action around it. So I want to review the 7 deadly sins for a moment, and then I have a challenge for you. 1, apathy. The second sin is fear. The third sin is desperation. The fourth sin is arrogance. The fifth sin is greed. The sixth sin is ignorance. And the seventh sin is complacency. And here's my challenge for you right now. When you hang up, you can go about your busy day and maybe never even look at the notes you took or even think about the 7 deadly sins and how they negatively impact you. Well, you could do what Chick-fil-A does and go the second mile. Make a difference in your sales career. Invest 15 minutes creating one action that you can start working on today that will help you become the salesperson you deserve to be. Maybe it's time for you to shampoo your parking lot. I want to thank you for being on the call today. Before we hang up, though, just a few things I want to get to you. First, we will be sending you all via email the Sales Sin Infograph. It's just a one-pager tool, keeps you cognizant. Remember, awareness is important, cognizant of what the sins are. Please schedule and share that on Wednesday, April 23rd at 10 a.m., Daniel Harkavy is going to be talking about leadership development. Love to have everybody on that call. And of course, contact us at info@buildingchampions.com. If you're not working with a coach and you'd love to have a coach help keep you aware, if you need somebody that need to add a coach to your board of directors, we would be honored to be able to help you with that. And finally, love us on Facebook, like us, I guess. There's not a love button. Twitter, follow us on Twitter, and any emails at info@buildingchampions.com. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you all taking the time out and investing in yourselves today. Just being on the call is the first step, and I look forward, if you want to, let me know how you're overcoming your fears. Excuse me. You can email me at Kristen, Kristen, @buildingchampions.com. Looking forward to connecting with you all if you need any help. Have a great day.